Introducing your SSAPT to your school is important to spread awareness, increase buy-in, and increase sustainability. As part of the grant requirements, your site administrator is responsible for introducing the school safety program to your staff, students, families, and community. Best practice is to introduce your SAPT to your school at the beginning of the year. We suggest that the site administrator takes the lead on presenting this pre-made presentation or create your own alongside other SSAPT members. An introduction of the SSAPT to the staff before the school year starts is ideal for purposeful implementation of the school safety program. Not all schools or districts have a week before school that all staff is available for training. This also may be done within the first week or two of school. This way the staff understands the role of the SSAPT, its members, and purpose of their work. Today we will focus on an example of introducing your SSAPT to your staff. An example outline of a staff introduction would consist of what the School Safety Assessment and Prevention Team is and its functions to your staff. Why is your SSAPT needed on your campus? Who is on the SSAPT? What are the roles and requirements of the roles? What are outcomes of implementing the school safety program? Share plans to introduce the SSAPT to students, families, and the community. This slide deck will be made available to your team as a tool to use to create your own SSAPT introduction. You can find a link to download it in the description below. Here is a roadmap of what your journey starting in the SSP looks like when starting your school year. Keep in mind that this plan is flexible, and the steps may not necessarily follow in this sequential order. This follows the SSP grant requirements. SSP grant requirements can be found at azed.gov/SSP. First, your team will want to sign up and attend the earliest annual training to ensure you have the most current information about the SSP requirements and best practices. Second, you will want to establish your SSAPT and have your first meeting. Some things to keep in mind. Is this your SSAPT's first year on the program? Have roles, norms, meetings, and systems been established? If you are continuing, has there been turnover? What does onboarding look like? Third, during your first meeting you will want to make sure the following are completed to guide your team in successful SSP implementation. Complete needs assessment through multiple data sources. You can use the data analysis activity as a template for aggregating data sources to identify and intervene on needs. As part of the data analysis activity, the intervention matrix will be a one-stop shop for all of your resources available to your campus for interventions and supports. The operational calendar will help your team visualize when milestones, assessments, meetings, and other SSP requirements are coming up and who is responsible for them. And the strategic plan summarizes all of those items listed before into a more concise plan of action. Fourth, you will also want to create presentations to introduce your SSAPT to your staff, students, and community. This is an important part of sustainability for your SSAPT because you are making sure everyone is aware of the team's purpose and how they will support the campus. This will increase support for your SSAPT and their goals while decreasing business as usual practices that affect school safety. This can be done in a variety of ways. Have fun with it. Fifth, you'll present your team to your school. It may look different based on the audience. In the following slides, we will go into more detail about suggested ways to do this. Sixth, now that your team is established, planning for supports is ready, you have presented your team to your school, you can start implementing your operational plan and start your school year off strong. First, in your presentation to staff, give an overview of what the School Safety Assessment and Prevention Team is. The formation and implementation of a School Safety Assessment and Prevention Team, SSAPT, is a requirement of the school safety program. The purpose of this team is to conduct a safety needs assessment, use the needs assessment data on an ongoing basis to determine the use of the officer, counselor, and/or social worker consistent with program requirements, coordinate efforts of this program with other safety and prevention programs and activities to achieve greater effectiveness, and make recommendations for continuous improvement of the program. A team may be formed specifically to meet this requirement, or an existing appropriate team may be utilized. The SSAPT is responsible for gathering data from a comprehensive needs assessment and other sources, analyzing the data, and utilizing the data to create an operational plan based on the data, determine what SEL and/or LRE instruction, interventions, and supports are needed throughout the school year, determine how the SRO, JPO, counselor and/or social worker will be utilized for instruction, building community relationships and resources, for proactive safety supports on campus to prevent unsafe behaviors and situations, and the other areas indicated in the grant requirements. Through implementing these responsibilities, the SSAPT helps foster and grow social competencies and academic achievement. Second, You will provide rationale and data to show why the SSP is needed at your school. This will bring purpose and buy-in to all stakeholders in your school. Over the next few slides we will go over examples of data sources your team may use and where to find them to show why the SSP is needed at your school. Your team does not need to use all of the data sources shown. Good data includes a holistic approach to students' educational needs, academic, behavioral, emotional, social, attendance, etc. For data sources, reach out to your administrator, Student Information Systems Manager, district personnel, and/or PBIS team as a place to find different types of data. Incident data is the most often used data because it covers the most areas that affect school safety. You will often find this data in your student information systems, other applications like SWIS, or you can ask your administrator for more information. Incident data can include, but is not limited to, referral data, threat or self-harm assessments, or other incidents such as referrals to mental health supports. This data will give a clear view of what behavior and safety concerns exist on campus that the SAPT would support for improvement. Here is an example from the SWIS app that breaks down referral incident data into 7 categories for your staff to easily find areas in need of behavioral support. You can also find this data in your student information systems, although it may not provide the graphs that SWIS does. These areas, combined with other data sources, can indicate the need for SEL and/or LRE on your campus. Social and emotional data is another great source of data related to preventing unsafe behaviors. Much like academic screeners provide educators with indicators of academic deficits and needs, the measurement tools listed on the slide are behavioral screeners or progress monitoring assessments that allow schools to assess baseline levels, areas of strengths, and areas of needs, regarding social-emotional needs and risk behaviors. Academic data can be a powerful data point to cross-reference as you are building purpose with your stakeholders so they can see academics can be affected by behavior and behavior can be affected by academics. Just like incident data, there is a plethora of academic data that can be used by your team to build rationale of why the SSP is needed on your campus. When students are having their needs met, they are in class, and they are engaged, then learning can take place. Here is an example of academic data showing AZM2 scores by grade level that can be provided by your administrator to cross-reference with your incident data. What you may find is that in a certain grade level they are struggling in both academic data and behavioral data, indicating a need for further analysis for additional supports. One example of this is looking at your exclusionary discipline, suspensions, and comparing it to academic areas or subgroups. How many hours or days of instruction are these students missing? Is continuing with current discipline practices closing the academic gap or increasing the gap? Attendance data is another area to look at to help support the rationale of needing the SSP. If students are not in school, they are not growing academically or socially. Your student information system should provide your SSAPT data on attendance. The third part of introducing your team, you will introduce who is on your SSAPT so that staff can understand not only who is on the team, but also their role within the team. That way if staff have any questions or concerns they know who to come to, increasing support and effectiveness of your SSAPT. The team membership must consist of school principal or assistant principal, SSP awarded position, school prevention coordinator or school mental/behavioral health expert, or similar role. Other members as needed. Other members recommended for inclusion on the team are District Prevention Coordinator, District Transportation Representative, Teacher Representative, Parent Representative. You will want to include team members' names and roles. You can also have them talk a little bit about themselves. On the slides that follow this, you will go into more detail about specific members' responsibilities and requirements as part of the SSAPT. You can find a list of these roles and responsibilities in the School Safety Program Guidance Manual, SRO and CSW Requirements Guidance Documents, and Roles and Responsibilities Cheat Sheet. As mentioned on the previous slide, on the fourth part we'll identify key responsibilities of the administrator as part of the SSAPT. The School Safety Program Guidance Manual does a great job explaining the responsibilities of the school administrator that you can use as a resource for highlighting the responsibilities here. A suggested list to highlight for responsibilities of the role is school principals, assistant principals, or site designee, establishes, supports, participates, and actively promotes the SSAPT school-wide. Leads data aggregation, analysis, and action planning. Ensures regularly scheduled SSAPT meetings and that meetings accomplish grant criteria. Manages school discipline and response to behavior management systems. Introduce your counselor or social worker and identify key responsibilities of their role to clarify any misconceptions of counselors or social workers on campus as part of the SSAPT. You can utilize a variety of resources available on the School Safety Program website to help with introducing the role. Important pieces of the CSW responsibilities to include are to build school-wide SEL implementation, CSW grant requirements within the School Safety Program, and appropriate versus inappropriate uses of the CSW. A suggested list to highlight for responsibilities of the role is: CSW supports, participates, and actively promotes the SSAPT school-wide, collaborates in data aggregation, analysis, and action planning, attends regularly scheduled SSAPT meetings. Primary role is school-wide SEL implementation, enhance school climate and culture, and build relationships with the students and school community. Support other school safety interventions and initiatives. CSWs are not involved in student discipline. Introduce your SRO, JPO and identify key responsibilities of their role to clarify any misconceptions of an officer on campus as part of the SSAPT. You can utilize a variety of resources available on the School Safety Program website to help with introducing the role. Important pieces of the SRO's, JPO's responsibilities to include are to build understanding of law-related education, SRO, JPO requirements within the School Safety Program, and appropriate versus inappropriate uses of SROs, JPOs. A suggested list to highlight for responsibilities of the role is: SRO, JPO, supports, participates, and actively promotes the SSAPT school-wide, collaborates in data aggregation, analysis, and action planning, attends regularly scheduled SSAPT meetings. Primary role is to teach their required 180 hours of law-related education, enhance school climate and culture, and build relationships with the students and school community. Supports other school safety interventions and initiatives. They are not involved in student discipline or classroom behavior management. The fifth part your team will highlight is: what are outcomes of having an SSAPT on your campus? Focusing on systematic, data-driven decision-making, the SSAPT reduces problem behavior by improving social-emotional, regulation, and coping skills, as well as providing proactive interventions and supports. Increases academic achievement by providing students, staff, and families with the skills and resources they need. Improves school safety and climate by building and supporting connectedness between the students, staff, families, and community. Finally, your SSAPT will explain to staff how you will introduce your awarded position and SSAPT to students and parents. Staff will need to know if they have any part of the introduction or how to support the introduction to students and parents. Have fun with it. Suggestions: what to share with students/parents. Who your new awarded position is and who is on the SSAPT, what the awarded position's role is on campus and what the SSAPT does, how they will support students on campus, encourage relationship building/communication with the awarded position, how can they contact/communicate with the awarded position. Suggestions for introduction to students. Introduce at an assembly, introduce in each classroom, fall/spring events, etc. Be creative. Suggestions for introduction to parents. Introduce at Meet the Teacher Night, introduce in your school newsletter, introduce on your school website, conferences, fall/spring events, etc. Be creative. Please feel free to use the example slide deck to create your own SSAPT introduction for your staff. If you have time, start planning out how you will introduce the SSAPT to your students and community as well.